Motoring 2011 on TSN is brought to you by Michelin, a better way forward.
This week we're hanging out at Mosport Racetrack, a track that since the late 50s has been home to the creme de la creme of the international racing world. But don't let these pictures fool you. We shot these in the summer. Not so lucky this week. Yep, it's winter. No racing today. However, all is not lost. You see, later on, we're going to be talking about winter tires. Now, I know all our motoring viewers understand you need them. There is no compromise. But let's say you own a big hunkin' pickup like that F-150. Do you really need winter tires? We'll try and find the answer to that question later on. But first, we're going to head to Canada's newest racetrack, Calabogie, just outside of Ottawa. And over the summer months, Subaru let loose its tiger, the WRX Sti.
The WRX is a symbolic car for the Subaru brand. Really what it does is it represents what our symmetrical all-wheel drive system is actually capable and what it delivers. We've made the vehicle more acceptable to more people, but at the same time we tried to make sure that we improve the performance of the vehicle. Since 2008, we've done things like we've improved the suspension system, we've added more horsepower, it's now 265 horsepower, so plenty of power, but also the handling that people are looking for in this vehicle. WRX Sti is the iconic flagship vehicle for the Subaru brand in general. It really demonstrates what Subaru is all about. In the past, we had a reputation for small, reliable cars, but now there's some excitement to our brand, and people really get excited when they hear about the WRX Sti, and it's attracting new people to our brand.
It's a new wide body design of WRX, which means that there's a wider track. That wider track has been stretched out by 35 millimeters in the front, 40 millimeters in the rear, and what that means is that you have better handling. We have wider wheels than we had last year. They're 8 inches wide as opposed to 7 inches last year. And what that means is a conventional tire and wheel would get heavier, but our engineers have actually shaved off some weight, 2 pounds per wheel. And despite the fact that you have a larger, wider wheel, that means you have less unsprung weight, so better handling. Every WRX, like every Subaru, is equipped with symmetrical full-time all-wheel drive, and this is really where it stands apart and ahead from its key competitors. The fact that we're putting power to the ground at all 4 wheels, doesn't matter the speed you're going or the gear you're in. Power is distributed 50% to the front, 50% to the rear for neutral, stable, and predictable handling.
WRX has obviously come a long way. It's becoming more and more of a serious performance car. The question is now, that given that it's adopted the wide-bodied stance, more aggressive wheel and tyre package, retuned suspension, and of course more powerful engine, which has been carried over, how is the STI going to remain a halo car? I think the STI does remain a halo performance car. It's still just a notch above. It's more focused on the hardcore enthusiast. The suspension, the chassis tuning, the power output, it's just that more aggressive. And still with the larger wheels and tyres, it makes a difference, especially out on the track. I'm impressed with what the changes they've done on the 2011 model, particularly the suspension, the springs, the shock tuning. It's just nicely set up. It's firm enough that you get that performance sensation, you get a fairly neutral handling car, but at the same time, it's not too hard on the old spine when you're driving on a back road.
Basically, they've kept the costs down, so it's still a very user-friendly car. Yet you have this performance aspect of it that's absolutely brilliant. For most people, this is enough car. Well, when you're talking about STI, of course, you're looking at a more edgy vehicle, and the price is going up a little bit, but for the money, it's fantastic value. I mean, if you're looking at comparable vehicles and sort of German sports sedans, you're looking at $10,000, $20,000 at least more for comparable type performance. Yeah, it is a brilliant vehicle.
The STI, you can feel the extra horsepower, and my thought when driving that was that it seems a lot like the Boxster, the Porsche Boxster. And it's only because of the way you get the great steering feedback. The horsepower numbers are pretty close. It's very easy to steer. It builds a great deal of confidence for the driver. You can go faster into these corners than just about any other car of that class.
The STI is a little more hard-edged. What I like about it this year is they've gone back to having a sedan version. I'm not big on the jelly bean styling of the 5-door. The sedan, I'm a person who likes a trunk. But it is a car that you could drive every day. On the track here, it's got handling on par with a Boxster S, which is a much more expensive car. It represents an excellent halo car, especially because it's such a bargain. It's a performance bargain out there, and most halo cars are out of the reach of most consumers.
You never heard of Eric Carlson? Well, he's never heard of you either, but he can help you see straight. More later on Kenzie's Corner.
There's an old song, anything you can do, I can do better, on this edition of Test Drive the SLP Camaro. When Ford upped the pony car ante with the introduction of the Mustang Shelby GT500, it cried out for competition. Chevrolet responded, but through a company called SLP. This company starts with a stock Camaro SS, which is no slouch in its own right, and imbues it with more. More of everything. It's a wicked car, but in a very pleasant way. What gives this particular Camaro its kick is found under the hood. A cold air intake and this monster supercharger. Now the supercharger is basically the same unit that you'll find on the Corvette ZR1. Now in the case of the automatic transmission, that thing bumps the horsepower from 400 to 560. In this car, because it's got a manual transmission, it jumps from 426 to 585 horsepower. Now that's enough to grab your attention in a hurry. It'll also burn rubber even in second gear. The 585 horsepower only tells part of the story. You see, what gives this car its pop at the low end is the torque. All 597 pound-feet of torque at 4,100 RPM. Obviously, peeling rubber is something the SL585 does only too easily. Pull away in first gear, short shift to second, get on the gas, and the tail twitches as the electronic nanny works overtime to prevent the 295/35 ZR20 rear tyres from melting in a blue haze. Fast? You bet. It runs to 100k in less than 4 seconds and has a claimed quarter-mile time of 11.5 seconds with a terminal speed of 195.6k. There are some exterior changes to this SLP Camaro. To begin with, this rear deck lid spoiler is functional. You get some much nicer 20-inch wheels and some extra badging, as well as this composite hood. Now this thing is functional. The cold air that rushes in here displaces the hot air that's under the hood. That lowers the underhood temperature, which is always good for performance. The final thing, this spoiler. For me, it's just not practical, because if you come across a taller speed bump, well, I think you can kiss it goodbye. Another of the key changes is the exhaust system. The aptly named Loudmouth 2 add-on is both a boon and a bane. The boon is the glorious sound it makes whenever the engine is doing its thing, even just idling. The bane is likewise noise. In this instance, it's the annoying drone that surfaces at 1750 RPM. That's right at highway cruising speeds, which makes it a monotonous companion on a long drive. I ended up puttering along at 100 kilometers an hour or stepping it up to around 130 to get away from the resonance. The changes to the interior are fairly subtle. You get this nice houndstooth cloth on the seats, although you could do with more lateral bolstering to keep you planted when you play. You get decals on the headrest and the floor mat. The shifter, the throws are actually 20% shorter, which is very good when you're rowing through the gears quickly, which is something you tend to do a lot of in this car. You'll also find a badge that tells you what number it is. In this case, this is pilot car number 1. The one thing that's missing, there's no boost gauge. Now true, it might be a bit difficult to integrate it neatly into this vehicle, but I still think it will be worth the effort. The suspension has also been reworked to improve the Camaro's already tight handling characteristics. The IBAC springs drop the ride height by about an inch, which lowers the centre of gravity and improves overall balance. The 255/40 ZR20 front and 295/35 ZR20 rear tyres then add tremendous lateral grip. The combination gives the ZL585 a remarkably dialed-in feel, even when pushed towards the limit. The other key option is the Brembo GT brake package. It brings fade-free stopping power and short 39.6 metre stopping distances from 100k. The changes to this SLP Camaro really do transform its personality. Obviously, the 585 horsepower makes it incredibly quick. It also handles exceptionally well, but it all comes at a cost. Somewhere around about $30,000 on this particular vehicle, and that's over and above the cost of the Camaro SS. So is it worth it? I think so.
Michelin, a better way forward.
There's a lot of pickup trucks on the road, and yes, they need winter tires as well as it's needed on cars, and even more so because a pickup truck is not really well balanced. The trunk is very light, the engines in front is very heavy. You should install winter tires in the winter. The winter tire is designed for cold condition. It's a softer compound. It will perform better on dry, cold pavement. On wet, cold pavement, it will be much better on snow and ice. Today we have two brand new Ford pickup trucks, and we have one installed with winter tires and one with LT 4-season tire. And we basically taking both vehicles through different exercise and demonstrating that there's a definite advantage with winter tires. And basically what we're doing is we're demonstrating through some exercises that the pickup truck equipped with winter tire is superior in most conditions than the one equipped with LT 4-season. We went through braking exercise. The braking distance is shorter by at least one car length, or one truck length in this case, than the pickup truck equipped with all-season. So if you have a braking distance shorter than if you would have only all-season tire, it's a huge advantage into an emergency situation. Then we take both pickup trucks and we go through slalom. And immediately you feel more precision when you drive the truck equipped with winter tire. And also under acceleration, we easily demonstrated with the truck with the winter tire performs much better from a standing still under acceleration, even though we have four-wheel drive. It's very important to realize that even though you have four-wheel drive, it doesn't allow you to corner better. It doesn't brake any better if you don't have the proper tires.
Hey, you want to know another reason to keep your car nice and clean? Check out me, the Menzoid, on motoringtv.com.
We've taken a vehicle and equipped it with outriggers, and then we've improperly loaded it with about 700 kilograms of water at the very top of the vehicle. And we do some emergency maneuvers with the adaptive ESP turned on and off. Now, only this vehicle has the ability to turn the adaptive ESP off. You can't get a Sprinter with that feature.
We're back here at Mosport Racetrack doing our winter tire testing. As you notice, we're using Ford F-150s, and there's a good reason for that, since this company has actually launched a campaign to encourage consumers to buy winter tires.
Last year we did our first national winter safety campaign, and what it was on select vehicle lines on the Fiesta, Focus, Fusion, and Escape, customers who purchased those vehicles during the campaign got a complimentary set of winter tires with steel wheels and TPMS. It was about 40,000 winter tires that we put on the road, so 10,000 vehicles that were sold during that period.
All right, let's head to the garage and join Bill Gardner.
Hey Brad, you might wonder what the heck I'm doing out here on this steep incline. It leads to the upper tier of a parking garage on a snowy day like this. Well, you know what? You and Graham have talked about how great Subaru's symmetrical all-wheel drive system is when you're at that Subaru event in Quebec City. You might think I'm going to talk about that. Well, we could easily because we've got the conditions, but that's not what we want to talk about. We're going to talk about Subaru's hill holder feature. This Forester 5-speed manual transmission vehicle has got the hill holder feature. Subaru has had this feature on their cars for many years. It used to be a simple little ball bearing that rolled backwards on an incline, and it blocked the outflow line on 2 of the hydraulic lines, one leading to one of the front wheels, one to one of the rear wheels, prevented the car from rolling back. Now it's done hydraulically and electronically, and it's a very smooth, seamless system. It just sits there. You don't even know it's there, but it really helps you out when you're trying to drive a standard transmission car on a steep incline. Now, lots of people have learned how to drive a standard. You know, somebody takes you out, a friend or a relative, or you take a driving school and they show you how to drive a standard on level ground, and you think you're pretty good at it until you get to a steep incline and the thing wants to roll back. Then as soon as it gains some rearward momentum, it's very easy to stall it. It wants to stall. And if another motorist pulls up tight behind you on that steep incline, you're apt to roll into them and cause some damage. It's really stressful. It's really a pain in the neck, and it wears the heck out of your clutch. You can actually damage or ruin the clutch. So it's a bad deal all around, and Subaru's got this great hill holder feature that completely eliminates that problem. So I'm on the brake right now. I come off the brake right now, and I've got all that period of time before the vehicle wants to roll back. On the brake now, I'm off, still doesn't want to roll. Finally, the brake releases and it rolls back. But that period of time, that little piece of time that you've got there is just what you need to smoothly launch the vehicle up the hill without stalling it. Time after time, it's quite easy. You don't have to slip the clutch, you don't have to damage the clutch, and you don't roll back. Just makes life really easy. Now, if you have a vehicle other than a Subaru, or a vehicle not equipped with the hill holder feature and a standard transmission, what you got to do is learn how to hold that vehicle on the hill using the parking brake. So let's say you had a sports car or any other car with a standard transmission. If it's got the parking brake in the middle, you've got your right hand free. You're going to use that parking brake, cycle it on and off to hold that vehicle on the hill, so that you can now use your right foot only on the throttle, your left foot on the clutch, and you can launch that vehicle safely. You can hold it from rolling back on the hill, and you'll have a stress-free drive with your standard transmission. So you need to learn this, and then you'll have a great time. And if you don't learn it, don't move to San Francisco. Till next week, I'm Bill Gardner for Motoring 2011.
Time to update our long-term Suzuki Kizashi. The Kizashi has some big-time competition in this hot segment, but one of the big pluses for this car is all-wheel drive. And during the winter, the Kizashi with 4 winter tires took on everything Mother Nature could offer. The 2.4-liter 4-cylinder engine produces 180 horsepower and 170 pounds-feet of torque. Not extraordinary numbers, but more than adequate. Now, you probably noticed in the wintertime, our roads become like minefields, giant potholes, big cracks, etc. Well, one thing I've noticed about this Kizashi is that the suspension really absorbs the noise and the vibration. You hear and feel very little on the interior of this vehicle. And speaking of the interior, someone once said it feels more German than Japanese, and I happen to agree, and that's not a bad thing. Now, this is the SX, and it comes fully loaded with standard equipment, and you've got a tilt, telescopic, leather-wrapped steering wheel. The seats are heated and powered. You've got rear sensors, Bluetooth, great stereo, and the list goes on. But one of the things I really like about the interior of this car is one of the gauges. It's the engine temp gauge. And you know, a lot of manufacturers now are doing away with it. They're either coming up with a lighting system or nothing at all. When I was growing up, my dad always told me to keep an eye on that gauge. That's when you know when your car is fully warmed up. And you know what they say, sometimes you don't have to improve on a great idea.
So who was Erik Carlsson? He's a famous ex-World Rally Champion driver. Now, he was famous particularly for winning rallies in grossly underpowered cars. How did he do this? by driving like a maniac. His nickname was On the Roof. It probably sounds better in the original Swedish, but he drove amazingly well. He told me the only time he was ever scared in a car wasn't in a rally, but on a public road. He was in a whiteout and he couldn't see where he was going. He figured, if you lose your brakes, you can at least steer into the smallest tree. If you lose your steering, well, you can at least brake and slow down when you hit the inevitable tree. But if you can't see where you're going, you're toast. You have no options. So I'm going to show you a couple of things about visibility. Now I have this very high-tech tool here, which I'm going to show you how to use, because apparently some of you don't understand this. I see cars driving all the time completely covered with snow. Now sometimes they'll do a little slot like that. That's very helpful. It's like driving in a mailbox. No, you got to clear the whole front of the car, including the hood, so the snow doesn't blow back on top of you. Now, maybe you're seeing the show in the summertime. What's that got to do with driving today? Well, how about these people that seem to want to show you how cute your baby's booties are, hanging from the rearview mirror? I don't care. I don't even care what religion you are, a cross or a temple or whatever it is that's hanging from your rearview mirror. Get it off of there. Even your condo parking pass, it's got no business being there. And a couple of weeks ago, I showed you about that guy who had half of his front windshield covered so his buddy could sleep without the sun shining in his eyes. Now, some people say the police should prosecute people for this. Surely to God, you don't need a cop to tell you. You got to be able to see where you're going. That's what Eric Carlson wants. That's what I want too. I'm Jim Kenzie.
You know, working on motoring gives me the opportunity, unlike consumers, to test drive not only different vehicles, but different tires. Good tires and not so good tires. And the difference never ceases to amaze me. Tires not only affect the handling of your vehicle from a performance point of view, but also in emergency situations. And I've said it before, when thinking of buying tires, whether summer or winter, don't compromise simply because of price, because you could be compromising your safety and the safety of your passengers. Before we go, make sure you check us out on motoringtv.com. We've got the blog dogs, 24 years of archives, and of course, join us on Facebook for the total motoring experience. That's it for now. We'll see you next time out as we continue to bring you more stories about cars and the people who drive them.
Kenny and I relived a lot of what we were doing in those countries, and to me this is an important little salute to what we did and to friendship.
Motoring 2011 on TSN has been brought to you by Michelin, a better way forward.